Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what kind of tomorrow am I creating with the thoughts I think today? Every idea you entertain, every belief you hold on to is like a seed being planted in the soil of your future. You may not see the harvest immediately, but given time, those thoughts will grow into actions, habits, and ultimately into the story of your life. That's why the direction of your future is not written in the stars, it is written in your thoughts. Every person is living in a future that was first created in the mind. The link between thoughts and the future you are building is far stronger than most people realize. Before anything exists in reality, it exists as an idea, a vision, or a belief that takes root in the mind. Your present life is not an accident. It is as a reflection of the thoughts you allowed yourself to entertain yesterday. If you look closely at the course of your life, you will find that what you chose to dwell on, whether good or bad, determined the direction of your choices, your actions, and even the opportunities you were able to see. Thoughts are not invisible whispers without weight. They carry energy, shaping your emotions and influencing your behavior. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you are capable, that you are moving toward growth, you begin to align your actions with that truth. On the other hand, when you allow your inner dialogue to be dominated by fear, doubt, and negativity, your actions will shrink to fit those beliefs. People often wonder why they end up stuck in cycles of failure, conflict, or regret. The answer is simple. The thoughts they allow into their mind create the blueprint for the future they walk into. Consider how a single thought can change the course of a day. If you wake up and the first idea you embrace is, today will be hard, that thought will cloud your mood, your energy, and the way you treat others. Your body even responds physically to the signals sent by your mind. Stress chemicals rise, motivation drops, and suddenly the day unfolds according to the negative script you wrote in your head. Yet if you choose to start with, today is a new chance and I can make progress, your energy lifts, your creativity flows, and your interactions shift toward the positive. The thought itself did not change reality in that instant, but it created the conditions that shaped how reality played out. Your future is nothing more than the accumulation of these daily moments. Every thought you allow today lays a stone on the path you will walk tomorrow. A thought of courage may push you to take a small step forward in faith, leading to opportunities you could never have imagined. A thought of defeat may cause you to retreat, leaving doors unopened and dreams unrealized over weeks and months. These small shifts create two very different futures, one defined by growth and fulfillment, and another defined by regret and limitation. The connection between thoughts and the future is also reinforced by the way the mind seeks alignment. Psychologists call it confirmation bias. You notice more of what you expect to see. If you believe you are destined to fail, your brain highlights evidence of failure. If you believe you are capable of growth, your brain scans the environment for opportunities to grow. This means your thoughts are not passive. They are filters shaping what becomes visible to you. The future you see is the one your mind is trained to look for. This is why mastering your thought life is not optional. It is essential. You cannot create a future of peace, abundance, and joy while rehearsing thoughts of fear, scarcity, and defeat. The seeds you plant in your mind today are the harvest you will reap tomorrow. If you want to change your future, you must begin by changing your thoughts. Train your mind to dwell on possibility, on gratitude, on resilience, and the future that emerges will align with those powerful truths. The link between thoughts and the future is unbreakable. Life does not hand you a future at random. You build it one thought at a time. If you truly want a tomorrow filled with hope and strength, then today is the day to take control of what you allow to live in your mind. Negative thinking patterns are like invisible chains that silently wrap around your future, pulling you back every time you try to move forward. Most people do not even realize how deeply these patterns sabotage their destiny because they operate quietly in the background of the mind. A single negative thought may not seem harmful, but when repeated day after day, it shapes your beliefs, and those beliefs dictate your actions. Over time, the negativity that once lived only in your head becomes the reality of your life. Think about how negativity begins. Often it starts with a subtle inner voice. You're not smart enough. You'll never succeed. People don't really care about you. At first, you may try to push these thoughts aside, but if they are entertained long enough, they start to feel like truth. The danger is that your mind does not simply hear these messages, it begins to obey them. If you believe you are not capable, you won't take risks or pursue opportunities. If you believe people don't value you, you will withdraw and isolate yourself, reinforcing the very loneliness you fear. What started as a thought becomes a lived experience. Negative thinking also weakens your ability to see possibility. When you're stuck in patterns of doubt and fear, your focus narrows. You become hyper aware of problems, obstacles, and risks while ignoring solutions, opportunities, and blessings. It's like wearing glasses that only show what's wrong, never what's right. Over time, this distorted vision robs you of courage, creativity, and the ability to hope. Without hope, the future begins to feel like a dead end, and many give up before they even begin. The sabotage is not only mental, it is physical too. Research shows that negative thoughts trigger stress responses in the body, releasing chemicals that keep you in a constant state of tension. When the body is in fight or flight mode, it cannot focus on long-term goals or healthy decision making. Instead, you live in survival mode, reacting to fear instead of building toward your destiny. Over years, this stress not only drains your energy, but can also damage your health, leaving you too exhausted to pursue what matters most. Negative patterns also influence the people around you. If your mind is filled with criticism, complaints, and pessimism, it spills out into your conversations. Others sense the heaviness and it pushes opportunities, friendships, and support away from you. Destiny is rarely achieved alone. It requires connection, encouragement, and collaboration. But negativity isolates you, leaving you to walk a lonely road that grows darker with every step. Perhaps the most damaging part of negative thinking is that it convinces you there is no alternative. You begin to believe that your past defines your future, that your mistakes cannot be redeemed, that your limitations cannot be overcome. This belief is the final sabotage. It closes the door to change. When you accept negativity as your permanent reality, you surrender your destiny without a fight. But the truth is, destiny is not destroyed by circumstances nearly as much as it is destroyed by thought patterns. A difficult past can be healed, a tough environment can be overcome, but a negative mind will replay the same story no matter where you go. That is why recognizing and breaking these patterns is essential. You cannot create a future of purpose and fulfillment while carrying thoughts that constantly undermine your worth, your strength, and your possibility. The sabotage of negative thinking is silent but powerful. It is the slow erosion of hope, the quiet dismantling of courage, the unseen wall between you and your destiny. If you truly want to step into the life you were created to live, the battle must begin in your mind. Replace the patterns of doubt with truth, the thoughts of failure with thoughts of growth, and you will break free from the silent sabotage that has held you back for too long. What you focus on daily becomes the foundation of the life you are building. The role of daily focus and intentional thinking in shaping reality is often underestimated, yet it is one of the most powerful forces guiding your future. Every day, your mind processes thousands of thoughts, but it is the ones you give attention to, the ones you feed with focus, that grow strong enough to influence your choices. And your choices, repeated over time, create the reality you live in. Focus is like a spotlight. Wherever you direct it, that part of your life expands. If you spend your energy focusing on problems, failures, and what is missing, then your life becomes dominated by struggle and dissatisfaction. You start to see more problems than opportunities because your attention has trained your mind to notice what is wrong. On the other hand, if you intentionally focus on solutions, gratitude, and growth, your mind begins to search for ways to move forward. The problems may still exist, but your reality shifts because you have chosen to see beyond them and to give your energy to what will make a difference. Intentional thinking is the discipline of guiding your mind instead of letting it wander aimlessly. Most people allow their thoughts to drift wherever they want, like a boat without a rudder. But the truth is, thoughts are powerful currents, and if you don't steer them, they will carry you to places you never intended to go. Intentional thinking says, I will decide what I dwell on today. It means choosing to meditate on possibilities instead of fears, on truth instead of lies, on hope instead of despair. Over time, this practice rewires your brain, making it easier to default to positive, productive thoughts instead of destructive ones. The connection between focus and reality becomes clearer when you look at habits. A person who wakes up each day with a clear intention, perhaps to learn, to build, to grow, creates habits that align with that focus. They read, they act, they practice discipline, and eventually their life reflects those repeated actions. Another person who wakes up without intention may drift into distraction, wasting hours on things that add no value. Their reality becomes one of stagnation, not because they lacked potential, but because they lacked focus. Daily focus also affects how you respond to challenges. Life will always present difficulties, but intentional thinking gives you resilience. When your focus is fixed on growth and possibility, setbacks become lessons instead of prisons. You begin to see failure not as the end, but as part of the process. This mental framing shapes your reality because it keeps you moving forward when others would give up. Reality is not only what happens around you, it is how you interpret and respond to it. Two people can experience the same event, but their focus creates two completely different realities. One sees loss and hopelessness, while the other sees opportunity and strength. The difference is not in the event itself, but in the thoughts they chose to nurture daily. This is why mastering focus and intentional thinking is so critical. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you give your attention to. Every day, you have the power to decide whether your focus will feed fear or faith, distraction or discipline, despair or hope. Whatever you choose, your mind will magnify it, and eventually your life will reflect it. The role of daily focus is simple yet profound. It is the invisible architect of your reality. With every thought you choose to focus on, you are either building a future of strength and possibility or one of regret and limitation. If you want to change your reality, begin by changing where you place your focus today. The human mind is one of the most extraordinary creations in existence, not only because of its complexity, but also because of its ability to change. For centuries, people believed that the mind was fixed, that once you reached a certain age, your brain stayed the same. But modern science has shown us something revolutionary. The mind can rewire itself through a practice. focus, and repeated thought patterns. This concept, known as neuroplasticity, explains why the thoughts you entertain, the habits you build, and the practices you repeat literally reshape the structure of your brain and, in turn, the reality of your life. Every thought you think creates an electrical pathway in the brain. The more you repeat that thought, the stronger the pathway becomes, like a well-worn trail in a field. Eventually, it becomes the default road your mind takes. This is why negative thinking becomes so powerful over time. Constant repetition strengthens those mental highways, making it easier for your brain to slip into patterns of worry, fear, or doubt. But the same is true in the opposite direction. When you intentionally practice positive, constructive thoughts, your brain builds new pathways. And over time, those pathways become stronger than the negative ones. What once felt impossible, thinking with confidence, hope, or clarity, becomes natural because your brain has been rewired to support it. The science of this rewiring lies in the connection between neurons. Every time you practice a thought, emotion, or skill, neurons fire together. The brain follows a principle often summarized as neurons that fire together wire together. This means that repetition creates lasting connections. If you practice gratitude daily, your brain becomes quicker at accessing feelings of gratitude. If you practice resilience in the face of challenges, your brain strengthens the circuits that help you recover from setbacks. Practice doesn't just change what you know, it changes who you are on a neurological level. Consider habits as another example. When you decide to learn a new skill, say playing an instrument or learning a language, at first it feels difficult, awkward, even frustrating. But as you repeat the practice, the brain forms new connections and those skills become automatic. The same principle applies to emotional and mental habits. If you repeatedly practice calm breathing in stressful situations, your brain will gradually associate stress with calm rather than panic. What once triggered anxiety will eventually trigger focus and peace because the brain has been rewired through practice. This process also explains why intentional thinking is so powerful. You cannot stop a negative thought from entering your mind, but you can decide whether to feed it. Each time you redirect your focus towards something true, uplifting, or productive, you weaken the negative pathway and strengthen a new one. Over time, the brain learns to default to healthier thoughts. This is not wishful thinking, it is biology at work. The brain is designed to adapt, but it requires consistency and practice to make the changes lasting. The most encouraging truth about the science of the mind is that it proves your story is not fixed. No matter what patterns of thought you have lived with, fear, addiction, insecurity, or doubt, they can be changed with practice. The brain can be taught new ways of thinking, new responses, and new patterns that open the door to growth, healing, and possibility. Your mind is like clay in the hands of your daily choices. It will take the shape of what you continually practice. The science is clear. The mind is not your prison. It is your tool. And with intentional practice, you hold the power to rewire it toward peace, strength, and success. Every person carries an inner dialogue, a constant stream of thoughts that either lifts them forward or pulls them back. The tragedy is that many of those thoughts are not even true. They are lies planted by past failures, critical voices, painful experiences, or even comparisons to others. These lies may sound convincing. I'm not good enough. I'll never change. Success isn't for people like me, but they are distortions that trap the mind in limitation. The importance of replacing lies with empowering truths cannot be overstated, because as long as lies are allowed to dominate your thinking, your potential will remain locked behind invisible barriers. The danger of lies is that they shape identity. Once you believe a lie about yourself, you begin to live as if it is reality. A person who believes the lie that they are unworthy will sabotage relationships, push away opportunities, and settle for less than they deserve. A person who believes they are destined to fail will not attempt the very steps that could lead to success. Lies do not just limit thoughts, they create self fulfilling patterns that rob you of the future you were meant to build. Replacing lies with empowering truths is the turning point that changes everything. The mind cannot remain empty. It will always cling to a narrative. If you simply try to reject a lie without replacing it, it will eventually return. But when you actively plant truth in its place, the mind has a new foundation to build upon. For example, if the lie says, you are powerless, the empowering truth is you have the ability to change one choice at a time. If the lie says, you are broken, the truth says you are resilient and healing is possible. Each time you practice speaking and believing the truth, you weaken the grip of the lie. Science supports this process. Repeatedly declaring truth reshapes the brain by building new neural pathways. At first, the truth may feel foreign, even uncomfortable, but with consistency, it becomes stronger than the old pattern. What once felt like a hollow affirmation begins to feel like reality because the mind has rewired to accept it. This is how people break free from cycles of insecurity, fear, or addiction, not by willpower alone, but by replacing destructive thoughts with truths that empower them to act differently. There is also a spiritual and emotional dimension to this practice. Lies keep people in bondage because they align with fear. Truth liberates because it aligns with hope. When you choose to live by truth, you stop agreeing with the voices that want to hold you down and start agreeing with the possibilities that can lift you higher. This is not about ignoring difficulties, but about grounding yourself in truths that allow you to face difficulties with strength. Replacing lies with empowering truths is not a one-time act. It is a daily discipline. Every day, the mind must be reminded of who you are, what you are capable of, and what kind of future you are building. Each time you silence a lie and replace it with truth, you move one step closer to freedom, clarity, and purpose. Over time, the lies lose their power because the truth becomes louder. The future belongs to those who refuse to let lies dictate their destiny. By choosing empowering truths, you reclaim authority over your thoughts, your actions, and your life. This practice is the foundation of transformation because no matter what the world says or what your past has whispered, the truth will always set you free to live the life you were designed to live. Transformation rarely happens in one dramatic moment. Instead, it is built quietly, almost invisibly, through the small mental shifts you make every single day. Many people look for breakthroughs as sudden events, a single decision, a single success, or a single opportunity that changes everything. But the truth is that long-term transformation comes from the accumulation of small adjustments in the way you think. Choices so subtle you might not notice their power in the moment, yet over weeks, months, and years, they create an entirely new direction for your life. A small shift may be as simple as changing how you talk to yourself in the morning. Instead of saying, this day is going to be exhausting, you say, this day is an opportunity for growth. That one shift may not change everything instantly, but it starts to alter your mindset. The energy you carry into the day is different. The way you interact with others changes, and your resilience to challenges becomes stronger. Repeated day after day, this small adjustment rewires your outlook and sets you on a new trajectory. Daily mental shifts matter because your mind is constantly collecting evidence to support the thoughts you focus on. If you focus on negativity, your brain will highlight more reasons to feel defeated. But if you shift your focus toward gratitude or possibility, your brain will begin to notice opportunities, blessings, and solutions you may have overlooked. This practice doesn't eliminate challenges, but it trains your mind to interpret them differently, transforming obstacles into lessons rather than roadblocks. Another example of a small shift is replacing self criticism with self compassion. Many people speak harshly to themselves for every mistake, reinforcing shame and failure. But when you shift to saying, I made a mistake, but I am learning, you create in space for growth instead of punishment. Over time, this subtle change builds resilience, helping you rise faster from setbacks and move steadily toward your goals. These shifts also compound. One new perspective leads to another. Choosing to forgive instead of holding on to resentment frees emotional energy, which then fuels creativity and motivation. Deciding to focus on solutions instead of problems encourages persistence, which then creates opportunities you wouldn't have seen before, like small drops of water filling a jar. These daily changes eventually overflow into visible transformation. Science backs this reality. Repeated small shifts strengthen neural pathways in the brain, making new ways of thinking feel natural. At first, choosing gratitude, resilience, or hope may feel forced. But as you practice consistently, your brain rewires to accept them as your normal state. What once required effort becomes effortless because your default patterns have changed. The beauty of small daily mental shifts is that they are accessible to everyone. You don't need a perfect plan or extraordinary strength. You only need to choose moment by moment to redirect your thoughts toward what empowers you. Over time, those moments add up, and the person you become is radically different from the person you once were. Transformation is not found in the grand gesture. It is built in the quiet, repeated choices of the mind. A single shift may feel small today, but multiplied over time, it can shape an entirely new future. Your destiny is not rewritten in an instant. It is rewritten in the daily practice of choosing thoughts that align with the life you want to